Hello. It's really freezing today. There's a huge winter freeze or all over the country today on Christmas Eve 2022. I want to talk about what I call the grand unification of the human species um in the 20th century. Um for me, it is without question, the biggest, story of the 20th century, or, because so much of Western civilization has been about race, and, I mean, if you look at the majority of the greatest, philosophers, if you go into fields like medicine, psychology, anything, literature, just the conquest of the North American continent, uh, you know, through manifest destiny, wiping out the native population, you know, which obviously happened in Australia and what happened in Africa and Asia and so much of the world. A lot of it has to do with race. And so it was an amazing achievement, in my opinion, that people like Franz Boas and Ashley Montague, all the way back in the 1950s, determined that, hey, this concept of race uh, is not a biological reality. And I happen to be, I think I mentioned this probably in another video, but I happen to be at the University of Pennsylvania hospital. My dad was getting some kind of, I don't know if it was surgery. I don't quite remember, but I remember I was just reading the um, Philadelphia Inquirer, and it said that race is not a biological reality. Really, it's just skin deep. And that really was, you know, a turning point for me because I had no idea that the whole concept was hollow. And in the article, they talked about the work of Kenneth Kidd, Luigi Luca Cavalli Savorsa, and I contacted both of them, and they spoke to me briefly. I remember Dr. Cavalli Savorsa, who had died. He wrote a book called Genes, Peoples, and Languages, or Genes, Cultures, and Languages, small little volume. And this guy he was a Stanford medical school geneticist, and he studied peoples all around the world and found that there's no corresponding races of humans, and then in fact we're all African. I want to just show you. I have, excuse me, I have a lot of um, Ashley Montague's books, but this is something that he wrote. I want to say I own a lot of books. I own like 2 or 3 thousand books. Um, I just have to read them. I think this was written in 1974. As you can see, I don't know if you can see it. It says Ashley Montague, Man's Most Dangerous Myth, The Fallacy of Race. And, he's got several books like this. And then I've got a book called The Myth of Race. And then I've got another book called The Race Myth. And, I mean, there's just so many. What was the other one I had? Um, oh, like I think I mentioned before too. One of the best books is Kwame Anthony Appiah and Amy Gutman. not the one who runs Democracy Now, but the one who was the president of the University of Pennsylvania, Gutman. They wrote a great book together called The Color Conscious, The Political Morality of Race. I have a couple of copies of that book in here too. Check that one out. It's really great. Or if you look at Stephen Jay Gould, The Mismeasure of Man, or William H. Tucker, Science and Politics of Racial Research, just on and on. And I think um, it, Du Bois, W.B. Du Bois, and in my opinion, Frederick Douglass and W.B. Du Bois both sort of knew that race was a fallacy, a fiction, um, because they were both two guys who had European as well as African ancestry. So I think once you are quote unquote mixed like that, you sort of get the point that we are the same people. Fortunately, not everybody gets that point. I mean, they just finished the January 6th insurrection hearings. I guess before the Republicans come into power, but that was a white supremacy. I mean, that was essentially. I was listening to this other Stanford historian. I forgot his name, but he was on Democracy Now. I was watching him yesterday, and he was talking about how this clearly was, you know, even though Donald Trump was sort of the personification and was leading this thing, uh, this is much bigger and deeper than Donald Trump, right? This white supremacist ideology goes all the way back to the origins of the country with Ben Franklin, unfortunately, and all the founding fathers, except for perhaps Thomas Paine or Benjamin Rush, who were two of my more favorite ones. But just the spreading of manifest destiny, and not only here but also, I was reading about the horror of South Africa. George Frederickson did a great book called White Supremacy, where he compares the United States and South Africa and looks at the similarities. I want to go to South Africa too, by the way, and look at where they've gone since apartheid ended and how they're doing. So yeah, for me, that was the greatest achievement of the 20th century, was the dismantling of the the biological reality of race, that it is, in fact, a social construct. And because, like, people like myself, and I would say most Latinos, most African Americans, we are a blend of what have been called races. And that's not supposed to be able to happen. You're not supposed to be able to blend races. We're supposed to be sort of distinct categories of human beings, but clearly we're not in these little silos. We are fluid. We're very much, like they talk about being gender fluid. Well, there's racial fluidity, if such a thing existed. And it's just a fascinating topic to me, because really there's been so much pain if you think about it. I mean, slavery, the torture of slavery, the slaughter of native populations, uh, um, even the creation of the concept of being white. That's also very curious phenomena. You know, Now, even though it's been dismantled in terms of science and biology, of course, racism continues to exist. As I said, we just had an insurrection uh, hearing, and that's all about white supremacy and a backlash to Barack Obama and what is the browning of the United States. So yeah, I mean, gonna have many more videos, but essentially, I just wanted to put that term out there, the grand unification of the human species, because like um, physicists like Albert Einstein and others were trying to have a grand unification of the different forces of physics. I'm saying we had a grand unification of the human species, and hopefully we will treat each other um, in that fashion as if we are the same people, because we are.